Got it. Okay. All right. Welcome to the Halloween edition of the Make Guitar podcast. Thank you for joining us. Mitch, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. How are you, Kirk?
I'm doing well. Doing well. Yeah. So a lot of people in spooky costumes out there on the streets of San Francisco.
Yeah, I saw Thelma yesterday, from Scooby Doo.
Oh, wow, that's a
I
good
walked
costume.
down the street and somebody was in a Thelma costume.
Yeah, I saw some Harry Potter, some Hogwarts attendees and Catwoman, the Joker on one, those little like electric scooters. I saw like three people going down the street on those, and one of them was dressed as Joker. That's kind of
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, the weather's pretty good, so it's a good night, to go out, you know?
yeah, yeah. And there's like people are out in droves again. The mask mandate is over. Hopefully, people are being safe. But yeah, people are out there being social, and uh, it's good. It's good. It's good for the economy. It's good for the soul.
Yeah, right. You know? So yeah, what do you want to talk about today? What do you got on to talk?
Well, let's talk about what we're working on. For
Okay.
one, um, um, and I think you had a pretty good hypothetical idea, and that was,
I don't know if
that
it was a good idea.
well,
Just an idea.
I think it's an idea that it's like it really we can't even decide today if it's a good idea. We have to actually like, record some songs. We were just talking about like good covers, like making a cover your own, or like if you are the band that made a song popular, then you can be a famous cover band. But generally speaking, bands who do covers aren't really, they're not the ones that you remember,
Maybe sometimes, right?
right?
Like sometimes it's someone else that makes the song, like popular, like
Right,
Steve Miller and Jet Airliner, like that's a cover of Paul Pena's Jet Airliner, right? But he made it like super famous, like Steve
right,
Miller
yeah,
made it super famous, right?
yeah, yeah, or like "Blinded by the Light." Uh, I, I don't think Bruce Springsteen started performing that song until the later years. But Manfred Mann's Earth Band, that was one of their two hits of their career.
Yeah. Did they write it? I think they wrote it,
No,
right?
no, they did not. Bruce Springsteen wrote that song.
Oh, okay, yeah, because they're kind of famous for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
Huh.
think he kind of wrote it for them. Or
Oh,
it's
so
like,
he wrote it specifically for them.
I think that is the,
Okay. Huh, funny.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know why, like sometimes these things are like it's a song somebody's written, like Sinead O'Connor had a big hit with "Nothing Compares to You" by Prince, but he actually wrote that song for a band called The Family, or at least they were the band that first recorded it. And it was a pretty obscure song until Sinead O'Connor discovered it.
Huh, weird. Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of people do covers and then you think they're the original, but then
Right.
later you'll find out like, oh wait, someone else did this. They wrote it.
Yeah, I know it's surprisingly common. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times, um, you don't you have to pay a lot of attention sometimes to figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
Like there's a
Well,
bunch of songs on like the first couple White Stripes albums that I thought were original. I was like, oh, Jeff White's a really great songwriter.
oh really? So he did a bunch of covers. I didn't know.
Yeah,
See, I didn't even notice. I don't really have any of their records though too, so I'm not super familiar with all the music.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't remember what all of them were, but like, yeah, like I mean, I think I knew that the St. James Infirmary Blues or One More Cup of Coffee are not his songs, but yeah, yeah, it's a mix. It's a mix of his songs and
Nice. Well, that kind of jump started them, you know, like if they had to wait longer to write more material, you know, maybe it would have taken them too long to get their albums out there, you know.
Yeah, I think that's a totally valid point. I mean, you know, like if Guns N' Roses had thrown a few more covers into their repertoire, maybe they wouldn't have had to, you know, people wouldn't have had to wait, you know, 4 years or whatever for their follow-up album.
Funny. Yeah. Well, I guess I was just thinking, you know, I was driving around the car and every time I'm listening to the radio, you know, I'll hear something and I'll think, what if we made that 65 beats per minute and made it a doom metal song, you know?
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Well, like what are some examples of songs?
Oh, well, you know, I heard Pat Benatar singing Heartbreaker and I was like, oh, this would be a really great doom metal song, you know?
Yeah. Actually, there's a couple Pat Benatar songs. I think that also that what's it called? You Better Run. That's another one that would be a really good.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Um,
really slow.
yeah,
You better run.
Better Hide.
You better hide. Yeah, that'd be good, really heavy, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that other song? The other one I always hear and I think of this is there's a song by Player. It's from like 1975, you know, and it's like Baby Come Back.
You know, I wouldn't have. I would say like I've never heard of Player, but I definitely know what song you're talking about.
Yeah, you were listening to it in the roller rink in like
Yeah.
1975, you know,
Yeah.
right?
I think that's one of those ones where we actually have to hear it as a doom metal song before we can decide if that's a good idea.
Yeah, we got to get some people to cover that. So if anybody has a doom metal band and they want to cover Player for us, you know, just for
Yeah.
this experiment,
Yeah.
let us know in the comments.
Yeah, post your link to the video.
Yeah, we're gonna have a contest. Who can do the best doom metal cover of Player?
Yeah, we probably need to cast our net a little wider than the, you know, right now we have a good number of subscribers, but I think the odds of us finding a good doom metal band on our subscriber list.
Yeah, actually, you know, speaking of that, you know, I sold another pedal. So I sold one of those like parentheses fuzz.
Oh, right on.
I made 3 more, you know, because I thought they sounded good. So I was like, I'm gonna make a couple more, and they sold the first couple ones on Reverb. So I thought, well, I'll make a couple more and see if I can sell a few, right? And I sold one, and then the other one sat there for a while, and then I sold it the other day, and the guy, he asked me if he could come pick it up, right? You know, he contacted me on Reverb, and then he said, oh, you're in San Francisco, because I put local pickup, so if you're in San Francisco, you could just pick it up, right? And he's like, yeah, I'm in San Francisco, you know, I could just come by and pick it up, you know, and then I was like, well, I'm out in the Sunset, and he's like, oh, I'm out in the Sunset too, and I was like, oh, great, convenient. And then he's like, well, where do you want to meet? And I said, well, I'm at 40th and Moraga, and then he's like, I'm at 40th and Judah, which is like right down the street. It's like 3 blocks, right?
That's totally crazy.
I should have asked him. Oh yeah, and by the way, do you have a doom metal band? Would you like to cover Pat Benatar for us?
Yeah, or Player.
Yeah, or Player. Yeah. So anyway, so I just walked down the street and I just handed it to him, you know, and we talked for a couple minutes, you know.
That's super cool. So you've got a like hyper local, commerce community. I don't know what I'm
Yeah. Well, it saved me the trouble of going to the post office and wrapping it up in a box, you know.
Yeah.
Those boxes are big too. Like it's hard to find a box. I have a bunch of boxes that fit the small MXR style pedals, or the 125B sized ones, but those big boxes don't fit in there. You know, the big enclosures don't fit. You know, so that was super convenient, right? You know.
Yeah. You know, I ordered a pedal from Reverb recently, and the guy just sent it in like an envelope.
Oh,
It
funny.
wasn't even in a box. It was a plastic bag inside of like a manila.
Did you wrap it in some bubble wrap or something?
No, it's just a regular plastic bag.
Oh, funny.
Yeah, it was lucky that it worked. It didn't get like smashed by the
Yeah.
machines of the.
Yeah. I think generally, like the shipping is pretty good, but there is, you know, potential for, someone to chuck it across the room or have it get buried underneath a bunch of other packages or something.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, these pedals are pretty robust. They're,
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
destroy.
Yeah.
But I thought it was funny. I've never seen anything like that.
Oh, I
They're all
have.
just thrown in a plastic bag.
I have. I get like I've been ordering like parts, and lately I've been on this kick where I order because I like to get stuff just cheap as possible. So like I've been ordering stuff from China, and the Chinese stuff like it's the same stuff you buy from someone in the States, and they're just ordering it from China and then reselling it, right?
Mhm.
You know, right? And so like all these places on AliExpress are just like it's like you're buying directly from the factory, right? And so it's cheaper. But boy, they just like the shipping there. Like I got like just stuff just stuffed in an envelope, and then the envelope is kind of like partially torn open by the time it gets to me because it travels all the way from China, like so it goes like thousands of miles, and it's just like in this like flimsy envelope.
I mean, it's a miracle that that it all gets there. I mean, I guess you didn't count the parts necessarily, but
Yeah, generally I get the stuff and it's nothing, it's no problem. The bigger problem I have is sometimes you're buying and you're not sure what you're getting because it's like they don't give you a big description, they just give you like a little short description, and it's
right.
not very descriptive sometimes.
Yeah, I don't remember who it was, but somebody on one of our videos commented that they ordered a bunch of parts for their pedal, and they got all those big chiclet parts, and they're like, I don't have room in my box for all of these huge resistors.
Oh yeah, yeah. The same thing can happen with capacitors. Like if you get a
Yeah,
capacitor and it's like a 100 nanofarad capacitor, you got those like all over your stomp boxes. Like that's just like a really common value, you know. But usually they're like 60 volts or 65-volt rating, but you can also order them at like 200 volts or 400 volts, right? And those are the kind that would be in your tube amp. But like when you order like from the catalog on the internet, it doesn't really show pictures that where you can tell the sizes. Even if it shows a picture, it's hard to tell what the size is
yep.
unless you look at the dock. So like I have some of those, like I have a bunch of these big orange caps that are like the size of my thumb. You can't put them in a box because like one time I bought some and they were just the wrong, they were like 200 volts or something instead of, I didn't notice, instead of like the 65 or 50 volts or whatever the regular ones are.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that is one of the things that's a little bit daunting about pedal building is that you have to figure out, you have to learn a new skill, which is how to source and buy your parts.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah. That's you have to learn how to do that. You have to learn how to read the description.
Yeah, and a lot of times you have to like translate the values into the values that they use on the site.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's like it's kind of weird too. Like if you buy resistors, they're measured in ohms,
Mhm.
right? And then we scale up. So we have ohms, we have kilo ohms, like thousands of ohms, and then we have mega ohms, like millions of ohms, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so we're going up the ramp. With capacitors, the basic measurement is the farad, right? But the farad is like a huge measurement. So we're at the top of the scale. And then when you get your capacitors for stuff, usually you're not buying a farad or 2 farads or 10 farad capacitor. That would be like giant. It would be like the size of like, one of those things on a like one of those power transformers on a telephone pole on the sidewalk, right? This beside the trash can, right? But like what we do is we scale downward. So we go from microfarads, right? That's like a typical size. You might have like a 10 microfarad capacitor. And then we go down even further. We go down, that's like 1,000th of a farad. And then we go down further, we go to nanofarads. That's like a millionth of a farad. And then we go to picofarads, and that's like a thousandth of a thousandth of a thousandth of a farad, right? So it's kind of funny, like resistors go up in value and then the capacitors go down. And then you have to kind of know how to read them too, because you'll see like a listing, it'll be like point, 0.047 microfarads, but then on your schematic, it'll say 47 nanofarads, and that's the same thing, and it's like,
Right.
like,
Yeah, I think we should maybe do a sequel to our video on how to buy parts, because I don't think we covered everything. Like, I think a lot of it was resistors and like how to use the tightest site and things like that. But
sure. Yeah, we could do that. I'd like to talk about buying parts from AliExpress too, because I've been doing that lately. I was going to buy some op amps. And so I was comparing them to Tida, and I was thinking about doing a blog post where I compared the two, because they're very comparable, and there you could have reasons to use one site over the other.
oh yeah, that would be a totally great blog post. But I think it would also make a good video. So yeah, we could put the video in the blog post.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that. Let's put that on our to-do list, right?
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Yeah. So
if you're watching this and you think that's a good idea, feel free to validate that idea.
Yeah. So what are you working on lately? Do you have any projects?
I'm still working on my base. I just finished the finish using the Odie's oil. I use the Odie's oil. It's the super duper, and I put the creative colors citrus. It's like a powder, it's fine powder, which is the pigment, and you put it right in the oil. And so I use that to stain the body and oil it, protect it. And then I put a couple coats of the Odie's, what's it called? The butter. What's it called? The wood butter?
Yeah.
And buffed it. So
nice. Hey, so let me ask you about the color, because the color is intriguing. So how did the color, is it like an ink, or what is it exactly?
oops, I got the wrong. It's this powder.
Huh.
And you just mix it in to the oil. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you just mix it in. It came with, it's like a quarter of the bottle was full. I guess this is just the bottles.
Yeah. How do you measure it?
Well, uh, I just used my intuition. I used like a low teaspoon, and then I put in probably like 6 teaspoons of the oil, and then stirred that up. And I think the color was a little bit strong. I don't know. Maybe if I had chosen a different color, I wouldn't have felt that way. Like if I had chosen like more of a TV yellow kind of color, I would have felt like, yeah, that's probably an appropriate amount. But with this citrus color, it was pretty strong. I was like, I don't really want a totally orange base.
Yeah. Maybe you can tone it down by putting another coat of oil on or something, or buffing it.
Yeah, I was thinking that putting more of the butter on it would tone it down. I don't have the best light in here. I'll show it right now. This is a piece of pine with Odie's oil and citrus.
Nice.
I wanted it to, I wanted it to be pretty light. I didn't want it to be.
Yeah,
like
I think that looks. It's hard to tell there, but I think it looks pretty good. It looks like the dye kind of brought out the grain, because usually like pine doesn't have a strong grain.
Right.
The grain's kind of weak, right? It doesn't stand out, but it looks like I can see the grain pretty clearly here. So the ink must be bringing it out, or the dye must be bringing it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it does really kind of soak into the grain parts.
Nice. Was the color expensive?
I think there was a kit. I think it was like a kit that came with the oil and the color, and the butter. And I don't think it was a lot more expensive than getting, you know, like I think you got the oil and the butter and the wax.
Yeah.
Maybe that was a kit. I don't
Yeah.
know. But yeah, I mean, I don't think this was. I'm guessing it was probably like $60, and I'll have
Okay.
basically a lifetime supply of all of it.
Yeah, the oil lasts pretty long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
might order some color maybe. That might be something to experiment with. I was thinking about doing oiling another guitar, redoing another guitar with the oil. So maybe I'll try out one of the colors for fun.
Yeah. I'm totally thinking about getting more of the colors. I think it'd be kind of cool to have, you know, it's like I don't need to order any more of the oil or the butter, but um, it would be cool to do like bursts with it, or just have more of a palette to work with. So yeah, I think I'll probably get more of that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, let me see here.
So what are you working on?
Oh, let me tell you, I had a pretty productive week. I did a few things. So I had a friend and I kind of wanted to make a pedal for him. And so I had this Echo. It's a Multiplex Echo. It's kind of like got two delay chips in it, right? You can actually see them in the back here. The two big chips are delays, right? And then it can put the delays in series or parallel. And then it has a mode that's one delay. And so anyway, so I built this and it worked great, right? But I had another one that had a different design on it. And I was like, oh, I'm going to give that to Casey. And so I tested it. And that one, like it's got this extra little foot switch here that when you step on it, it kind of the delay time changes slowly, but you can hear it. So it's kind of nice. You step on it, it's like the delay kind of warbles, you know, right?
Cool.
Just very, very subtle, but it's nice. And then when you let go, it kind of ramps up to the speed that you were at again. So it kind of slows down and then it ramps up, you know, when you let go. But for some reason that didn't work on the other pedal. So I was like, I took it apart. I couldn't get it to work. I had a third circuit board that I made. I finished assembling that one. I stuffed that in the box. That one didn't work for another reason. I don't know why. It was so frustrating. So I took the one out of this box and put it in the other box because the one in here was working. And then I took that one and I put it in here and it's still not working. So I'm trying to debug that, you know. So that was a frustrating time, but I got the one working. So that was, and I built a couple of these before and they worked. I don't know what was wrong this time. And then, you know, I had built this Boss, I'd taken this Boss DS1 and I had rehoused, like this one is a, I forget what I put in here. I think this is the tone bender, right?
Okay.
You know, so I took the tone bender and I put it in here, right? And this worked pretty good. It sounded great. But then I was left over with a couple of these Boss DS1 circuit boards, right? So I had one of these. So I thought, you know what? These Boss circuit boards, like this is a 15 or a 25, a 125B box. This like fits like perfectly in here. So I thought like, oh, I should rehouse this, right? And then it turned out that I happened to have an orange 125B.
Gotta keep it orange.
Yeah, so what I did is I put this is like, it's one of these Boss DS1s, right? But it's just inside this thing. And then I took the Boss knobs and I put them in the same position and I gave it a little red 3mm LED. And it totally worked. I got this working today. I cut a little square hole on the end. So it's got the Boss power adapter.
How did you do that?
Well, you know what I did is I took the circuit board and then I just kind of looked at it side by side to gauge the height that it would need to sit at. And then I lined it up here and I just marked it with my Sharpie. So I had a little rectangle there right about where I wanted to put this thing. And then I drilled it on the drill press to get most of the material out. And then I have a bunch of these files, like little, you know, files. So I have like, I use my reamer to open the hole up a little bit. And then I have this like rat tail file. You know, it's just like a little round file. It's about 1/4 inch. So I use this to kind of lengthen the hole up. And then when I got most of the material out, because this removes a lot of material, then I have these other 2 small files here. So one of them's like a little rectangular file, and this one's like a little triangle. And so I use that to get in the corners, you know, and I use this to kind of flatten up the sides and get the corner, you know. This one actually did really good.
Yeah, it's a heck of a lot of work.
Well, you know what? I thought it was going to be a lot of work, and it actually was. It didn't take me that long. It went surprisingly quick to get that thing in there. Maybe like 15 minutes.
Okay, good.
Maybe a little bit longer. I think it was about 15 minutes though. You know, it was good that I had the tools. Like without the tools, it would have been a headache. But having those files, I got those. I don't know where I got those files. I think I got them at like a thrift store somewhere. They were cheap.
Yeah.
Because they're not very good quality, but they were working just fine. Like they actually it took out like a lot of material very quickly.
Yeah, I have a set like that, and yeah, they're just like, if you had to buy them individually, you know, from like a StewMac or something like that, you'd spend a fortune. But,
yeah. If you bought them from StewMac, it would have cost you an arm and a leg, but you would have got better quality tools. These are like not very good quality, but they work just fine.
Right.
You know, actually, you know what's funny about this too is it gave me a good excuse to use these Boss knobs because I hadn't used them. Right, because these are also like they're splined, so they have to fit on a spline pot. So I used the Boss pots here, so the knobs just went right on. So that was great. And then for the bypass, right, for the switch, the circuit board, the Boss circuit board has like a kind of like a buffered bypass. So like the DS1 circuit is like over here. And then these transistors and a bunch of these resistors and capacitors down in this corner are the buffered bypass. So, you know, essentially you just have like a momentary switch, like it just makes contact, and when you let go, it stops, right? And then it kind of tells the circuit to flip-flop, you know, either bypass, not bypass, and it turns the LED on and off, right? So this was already built in here. So I just basically wired it up with a momentary switch. So it's still, this is the Boss pedal basically in this box. So it has the Boss buffered bypass and the LED and everything, right?
That's cool.
It gave me an excuse to use this momentary switch too, because I was looking, I was like, God, do I have any more of those? And then I found 2 of them, and I can't even remember why I bought them or what I was going to use them for, but I had 2, so I you know, it was convenient. You know, and it worked too. So I was totally happy when I got it working, you know.
That's great. What's the action like on that momentary switch? Does it have a similar action to the regular?
You know, this, you know what? Okay, so this has a momentary switch in it, and it has like a very nice, like it just, you know, it's pretty smooth. You just press it and it's on, off, you know. It doesn't have a click though, right? This one, on the other hand, it's like a cheaper switch, and you really have to press hard to, you know, to get it to go on. It's like the spring is really heavy. I don't know why, but this, like, it doesn't matter. You're stepping on it with your foot, so you know. But anyway, so that was kind of fun. It was especially good that it worked, you know.
And that it's orange.
And it's orange, yeah. It was just like when I found that I had an orange 125B, I was like, okay, I have to do this. You know? I was thinking if I was like one of those guys that goes through all the work on the internet, and they would like make this look like the Boss pedal with some decals and stuff. But maybe I thought I might just take a Sharpie and write DS1 on it, and then maybe just like sketch in a black rectangle around the switch, you know.
I've been meaning to get you a label maker, so you can.
Oh yeah, I got to get a label maker. Yeah. So the other thing I did was I made this Quadratron. So the Quadratron, here it is right here. This is a sort of a clone of I don't want to say exact clone because it's actually different from the original, but this is based on the Love Tone Doppelganger. So Doppelganger is a phase shifter with a 4-stage phase shifter in it, right? And then it has 2 LFOs. right? So you can set the speed, like basically the phase shifter is divided into a high band and a low band. So, you know, when you set up the phase shifter, like the circuit, you can have like stages of phase shift, and in each stage there's a capacitor that kind of sets how much phase shift you get, or the range that it's shifting, right? I forget exactly how that works, but essentially there's a couple things you can do here, right? Like one, all the capacitors are the same value, or two, and this is actually a popular mod for the phase 45, is you make the capacitors in decade values. So they're like 10 times, you know, each one is 10 times larger or smaller than the other one. So it's, you have like 1,000, 100, 10, and 1, you know, like, you know, like 1 farad, 10 farads, 100 farads, you know, it's actually smaller than that, but you know, you get the idea, right?
Right.
So this has that, right? It has like, the 4 stages, and they're decades apart, okay? And it has a high band and a low band. So these two knobs set the high band and low band, you know, intensity, let's say, right? And then the two LFOs can drive one drives the high band and one drives the low band. Or actually, I have it backwards. It's low band, high band, low band, high band, right? Okay. So it's got, you know, the 4 phase shift stages, 2 LFOs, and then it has a couple switches, right? So, or 5 switches, right? So one of the switches sets the speed. So the LFO, the first one, can run super slow or the regular speed, okay?
Okay.
And then the second switch sets the shape of the LFO. So it can be triangle or it can be square wave. Sorry, this nut is loose. I'm going to tighten it. Okay, right? So it's got square wave and triangle wave, or actually triangle and square, right? And then the middle one right here turns off the LFO. So if you turn off the LFO, it has two expression pedal inputs. So you can set the speed or the shift of each of the bands. So the high band and low band. I can't imagine ever having 2 expression pedals and you're controlling the same effect with both pedals, but this is what it does, right?
You need a big pedal board.
Yeah, right. And then the other switch here sets the sets like whether the whether you have 1 or 2 actually no, this one is like the anti-phase. So like if like one LFO, if they could both be rising and falling together, or one could be rising as the other's falling, you know, they could be doing this. So they're like out of phase with each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. So you can do anti-phase or they're in phase for the 2 LFOs. And then the switch here sets the 2 LFOs. So you could say 1 LFO, or you can turn this on and then the 2 LFOs are running separately. So you could change the speed, like here, like if I turn this off, then it's got 1 LFO controlling all 4 phase shift stages. And if you turn the dual LFO on, then it's got 2 different LFOs. They could be running at different stages. They could be out of phase. One of them could be a square wave, and then they could be, you know, animating the you know, each of the 2 LFOs separately. And then the last switch is vibrato mode. So if you turn it on vibrato mode, essentially like the phase shifter is like vibrato and the original signal mixed together. So if you turn it in vibrato mode, you're just getting just the phase shift signal without without the dry signal, just the wet signal, right? So it's pretty crazy, right? The original Love Tone had a third switch in the middle that switched between vibrato mode. So instead of the toggle, it had a foot switch.
Okay.
Right. And then the knobs over here. So this is the 2 rates for the 2 LFOs. This is the high band and low band intensity. And then there's a color mode, which kind of sets the flavor of the phase shifting. And then this is a blend. So you can blend the original signal with the straight signal. It's kind of weird though, because if you turn the blend down when you're in vibrato mode, it's just like a volume control, right? Because you don't have a dry signal to mix.
Right.
right? So that kind of caught me off guard. I was like, what's wrong here? And then I was like, oh yeah, that doesn't work, But yeah, this worked pretty good. So I was really happy about this, that I got this together and it worked. I'm going to build a couple more of these.
That's great. So I have to ask, so you obviously put some thought into the interface because you have the white, black, red, red for the knobs. Looks like you've got a couple different colors of LEDs, but you've also had to memorize what all the switches do and what all the knobs do. Since you
Yeah.
can't put that in the mill, what are you thinking about for your interface design?
That's a good question. I don't know. I was thinking about making like a little metal panel and engraving the names on it.
Oh, that's a good.
And then I could just stick that on there. I don't know. Originally, I wanted to use these kind of knobs right here, these kind of like flying saucer kind of aluminum skirted ones. But and I tried to put them on here, but these pots are too close together, so the skirt kind of bumps into the neighbor, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of controls on that thing.
Yeah, so that was kind of a hassle. So then I just had to pull some knobs out. I just had these colored ones. So I did like the two channels, the black, the white channel, and then the red knobs for everything else. I might get some different knobs. I don't know. I pulled those out and that's what I came up with. I had originally planned to do the aluminum ones. I didn't realize they wouldn't fit though. So that was kind of a surprise. I was like, oh shit, these don't fit,
Yeah, you roll with it.
Yeah.
Sounds really like a really cool pedal. Yeah, I would love to see that thing in action.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, I was playing around with it. It was pretty good. I'm writing a blog post about it too, so I'll post that because there was a couple things that came up when I was building it. Like you got to read the instructions because there's a bunch of spots on the circuit board where there's capacitors, but there's some you don't put in. So he has it set up where you could use one or a different capacitor, but you don't do both. Does that make sense? So you gotta have to, you're gonna have to read the instructions and it'll tell you like which ones to use, or like if it'll give you a choice, like use this one or this other one, right?
Yeah.
And another thing that came up is I had I thought it was all like there's a standard op amp that everybody uses for pedals, like the TL7072, right? So the 072 is like it's like in almost everything, right? And I thought this would all be TL072s, but there's some op amps in here, TL022, 22, right? And I was like, oh shoot, I don't have any of those. So then I was thinking, like, can I swap out a different op amp? Usually you can, because the dual op amps all have the same pin arrangement. So you can usually swap one of those for another, but sometimes they have characteristics that you need for a particular circuit. So I Googled that and I got some conflicting reports, but it turns out the TL022 is just like a low power op amp. I guess they use it in the LFO section to drive the LFO. So it uses a little less power. I think if it's using a little less power, then you're less likely to have the LFO sound leak into the audio, right?
Okay.
So what I did was I didn't have any of those and I didn't want to wait to order them because TIDA, the shipping is so slow, right? So I had some TL062, which is a low power version of the TL072. And so I used the TL062s that I had and they worked just fine.
Okay.
So that was good, Yeah, you should hear this. It sounds pretty good. A lot of people, like the Love Tone pedals were kind of like, they came out in like 95 and they went out of business in like maybe 2005. And there's a lot of people use them like that. Joe Gore did a pretty good demo of this pedal. He did the original Love Tone Doppelganger. Like he has an original, so he did a video of it. And then like Johnny Marr and a bunch of people, like The Edge, there's a bunch of people that have used this,
Cool. Yeah, I'll check that out. If Joe has a demo of it on YouTube, I'll check it out.
Yeah, you should check it out. He has a pretty good demo. He goes through all the modes too, so you can see what they do.
Okay, that's awesome.
The thing about the original Love Tone pedal is instead of 5 toggle switches, so this is like a clone, but not exactly. Like the circuit is mostly the same, but the controls are different, right? So the original Love Tone has has two multi-position switches, right? Like rotating switches, and that does the thing these switches do, right? But like I think, like I haven't worked it all out in my head because I just finished building this, but like I think that this actually, the combinations here, you can get different combinations that don't exist on the love tone.
Okay, cool. That's
Right.
that's an innovation.
Yeah, and then the other thing is the love tone pedal has an extra button here, and that's the vibrato mode. So when you're in vibrato mode, they have a foot switch for it so you can turn it on. But the guy that made this, this is a pedal from like the circuit board. I got it from Ion Effects. So, you know, you can read their docs. He kind of talks about it in the docs, and he says essentially like his idea is that, you know, if you don't have a control for something, then it shouldn't have a foot switch. Right. So he's like, oh, so, and he seemed to think that that was like a, you know, just like a standard, you know, UI thing for pedal building. Like if you don't have a control that it controls, that you shouldn't have a foot switch for it, you know? So he kind of took the argument that switch should be replaced with a toggle switch. So you're either in vibrato mode or you're in phase shift mode, right? I could see another side of that too is if you use the blend control with the phase shift and then you turn on the vibrato, the volume would drop, like unless you had the blend all the way up.
Oh, yes.
Right? You know, it's also got like a dry and a wet out here on this side. So there's like an input, output, and there's like a dry output, I think, and then the two expression pedals, you know, inputs.
Interesting. So yeah, with a dry and a wet output, it seems like depending on what you have those going out to, you know, let's say you had them going to some other stereo effect, like a RV4 or something like that, the Boss reverb with the stereo in, and then you had that stereo out to like a couple different amps.
Yeah, yeah. If you had two amps, that could be like really cool, like with the vibrato. So you're getting vibrato from one amp and your clean signal from another, or your straight signal from another amp. You know, that could be a cool phase shift, but in stereo, you know, right? Could be good for recording too. Like maybe you want to like get your dry signal out at the same time so you can mix it in recording, you know? Yeah. Actually, I'm just gonna keep going because I also worked on my drum machine.
Oh, cool.
I got these 3 circuit boards here. This is this AD110. It's basically like a clone of the Roland Boss DR110, which is some analog drum machine they made, but this will make a Euro rack module, right? So I got a bunch of parts, and this is like epic. It's got so many resistors and parts on it. Like I got all the resistors and these sockets for the chips installed, and now I got to just go through and do the caps and the transistors, and I guess I put most of the diodes in here. You know, there's a couple other things. Oh, I missed one too. I gotta, this thing is taking me forever. I just soldered for hours on this.
So I've never built anything that has like that many circuit boards on it. Do you have some kind of spacers or something that keeps the circuit boards from actually touching each other?
Yeah, actually here's an example, right? So this is like a Euro rack module, and you can see it has like kind of layers, right? So here's the front panel, and then there's 2 circuit boards. This, we can ignore this last thing because this has like a microcontroller, so that's kind of on this chip right here, right? But you know, it's got these 2 layers, right? So usually what the Eurorack guys are doing is they use one circuit board for all the controls, right? And then they have one circuit board that has the rest of the circuit, like the audio processing and stuff. And then, like you can see, they've got this header along the side here. There's another one on this side, right? So they might have like 2 or 3 headers, but like usually what'll happen is you can take it apart, right? And so it'll just like the 2 boards will plug together with the header.
I see. Okay.
right? And so this one does the same thing, except it's like just 3 boards.
Right. Well, it's nice that you can, pull them apart like Legos, because if you had to ever work on it, you wouldn't have to like, desolder it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. So if you test it, if you build it yourself and it doesn't work, you had to take it apart and,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, sometimes they'll put, this one doesn't have it because it's kind of a cheap one, but like sometimes they'll put like a spacer with a screw in it, like one of those threaded nuts, so you can just bolt the things together. I actually ordered some of those. So I'm waiting for those to come in the mail. So I'm going to assemble this one with some of those kind of threaded hex nuts that are kind of, it's like they're like 11 millimeters or something long,
Yeah. I know.
So anyway, so that was my stuff. And then I want to do this guy. I got this other DRV started, but this needs some work. I got to drill some holes and
I like the look of that, with the outlined text.
yeah, I think it's looking okay, right?
Was that the one that you put the ink on and then you had to sand off the front?
Yeah, that's what I did. Yeah, I took a little bit of sandpaper and I just sanded it down,
Yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah, it looks kind of industrial,
Yeah.
I actually started drilling a hole. The LED was going to go here, but then I realized I had a bunch of these switches that have the LED ring on them. So I was like, you know what? I'll just do one of these LED rings because I want to use these switches up, So I should have thought of that before I drilled the hole, though. But oh well. Yeah, sorry, that was kind of a long thing. I just did a lot this weekend.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I've got a lot of projects to do, but I haven't made a lot of progress on them. So yeah,
Yeah,
happy for you.
what really helped is Saturday. I got up at like 7 and started working. I I just Saturday or Friday night, I just wrote down in my notebook, okay, here's all the things I want to do. And then Saturday morning, for some reason, I just got up at the same time I would get up for work. And I just immediately got out of bed and I just started working,
That's great.
It was good. It's quiet, because the kid was sleeping, sleeping in. So then it was like, oh, great. It's kind of quiet and mellow right now. Let's do some soldering and get some stuff going. I'd just gotten the day before, I'd just gotten a bunch of parts in the mail. So I was like, I'm ready to finish this stuff up because it was, it was like I had like one pot was missing from this. So I could put this together if I had one pot. So it was mostly done. And then this other thing, the drum machine, I had a bunch of parts come in the mail for this. So then I was like, okay, great. I can solder all that stuff in there,
Excellent. Well, no, you've inspired me. I need to order some parts, and the sooner I order them, the sooner they'll arrive, and the sooner I can make even more of myself, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what I got to do. Kirk, I got to get you and Dustin to build some guitar pedals. I have a bunch of circuit boards now that are piling up. I can just give you a couple free circuit boards, right? And then you and Dustin could build something,
That would be cool. I mean, we should probably, like Dustin and I should probably get together and like figure out all the parts that we need and order them at the same time so that we can just.
Yeah. The bummer with that is it takes usually a few weeks for the parts to come. Like Taita is just dog slow. You can get the parts from Mauser, but they cost a little more, right? But the shipping is a lot faster. They come in a few days, right? Couple days, right? But the Mauser site is like super technical. It's like really hard to wade through the Mauser site because they offer a lot more parts and a lot of different configurations or sizes or types or whatever you call it, right? So it's kind of, the Mauser site's harder to work with. The Taita site's like super simple. Like they've made it, the search function works really good. You just type in A100K and it just gives you all the pots, of like audio taper 100K pots. It's like super easy, but then it takes like 2 weeks to order the parts. And then by the time the 2 weeks is up, you kind of lose your momentum on your project,
Yeah. Well, fortunately, I have enough other projects, and I have a lot of parts I could probably just start, building with the circuit boards that I have. I think I did actually buy parts with the purpose of building. I didn't just randomly buy parts. so I can look into that.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, the circuit boards too, the ones that I made, I got them set up. These are like the best, like, you know, I built this thing and this guy, he has a great, like this delay. It's like a great idea, but the way that the board is set up for the off-board wiring is not easy to do. Or it's not hard either, but it's like, you know, there's just like a lot of off-board wiring. Like the LED is off-board, you know. The way I set up my circuit boards right here, these are like, because I built a lot of these, so I'm like, oh, like I can kind of tell what's easier to build. These are super easy to build because the LED and all the pots are on the board and all the off-board wiring is in the same configuration along the bottom edge. So it's just like when you wire them, it's like super simple and straightforward to do the wiring. Like they just go together really fast, you know?
That's great. So you just need to connect, you know, like you wire up your circuit and then you would just attach it to the jacks.
Well, let me get a picture here, right? Yeah, I'll show you. I have a picture, right? Just give me like 1 second here, right? So on my website, like I have all the pictures to set up the
okay.
projects, right? So like if you were to okay, so let me share the screen here for a moment, right? Okay, so do you see here, like here's the board, right? And then the pots all wire to the board. So here's like the back side, like you can't see the pot because it's on the other side, right?
I can see the connections, yeah.
So you don't have to wire that. You just solder the pot to the board and it's done. And then you don't have to worry about mounting the board because the board is mounted to the pots, right?
Right.
And then if you have your jack for the power at the top, you just run 2 wires to the 2 holes here and it's powered, right? And then next, like if you, let me go to the picture here, right? So like, let me see if I can get this one, right?
Oh yeah, you have to wire it to the switch and to the jacks.
I kind of want to zoom in on this picture here. Let me see here. That's actually not a good one, but if you look at this, like the 4 wires here just go straight to the switch. Do you see that?
Yep.
So they just go straight over there, no big deal, right? Super fast and easy. And then for the 2 jacks, the wire here goes to the switch and that's the output. And then the wire here goes to the switch and that's the input. Right? So everything just goes in a straight line to the switch. It's pretty easy to do. And then there's a little wire here that's the ground for the jack. And then this jack is facing the other way. So this one is like the same tab as this, but it's just facing up. And then on the other side, there's a tiny little wire that just runs to another little spot like this on the circuit board.
That's great.
Yeah, it's super easy, right?
I would totally, yeah, I think I would enjoy building one of those.
Yeah, so like if I found, like, let me get that other picture here because I have another picture of the wiring. Like, so this is what the wiring would look like. So you'd follow the instructions here. You're like, there's your circuit board. You just go, you know, minus ground plus V to your battery. And then this is the ground wire for the output jack. This is the ground wire for the input jack. And then input, output, and then the 4 wires just go to the switch.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it looks very easy to follow the lines.
Yeah, I kind of have this idea that anybody making pedals should just set their circuit boards up like this. Everybody does it the same way. And then like every board can just drop in. I had a problem actually with that circuit board. Like the first run of the board had a mistake and I had built it up and it didn't work, right? So what I did is I just disconnected all the wires, pulled the circuit board out and left the whole box with the wires connected. And when I got the new boards that were correct, I just dropped the board in and put the wires back in the same order. And it was super easy.
Yeah, that's great.
Because they're so organized, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the way to do it. Yeah, I think that in the past you've used like ribbon cable from like a hard drive or something like that, and have everything just go in line.
Oh yeah, you could do that.
Really,
Yeah, with a
really
yeah,
good.
you could totally do that with a ribbon cable. That's what Steve, when we talked to Steve, that's what he did,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Just like I just did 4
Yeah.
separate wires, but you could have a little ribbon cable that goes from the circuit board to the switch, right? And I thought that was a good idea. He used a little, he took it another step further and used a little circuit board on the switch,
That's
right?
right.
I don't know if I have one of those somewhere. Maybe I have one. Yeah, like kind of like this, like there's a little switch with a circuit board on the bottom. So
Right.
it's hard to tell here, but if all the connections go to the bottom of the switch right here on the bottom edge, and if they're in the same order, then you could just run a ribbon cable directly to that little circuit board. You could even solder it outside the box and then just put the whole thing in the box, you know?
Right.
Yeah, so that would take it to that would take this to the next level, right? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty swanky. I
I
mean,
know,
no,
right?
you know, the player isn't gonna know what's inside the box, but you'll know.
Yeah, actually, that guy I sold the pedal to down the street, he said that he got a pedal and was trying to build one at home, and then he got frustrated because, I guess he has kids too. So he was like, yeah, it was hard for me to build this on my own. So I just thought I'd just buy one, you know. And then I was like, oh, we should get him. He could build one,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
No, it's funny. I mean, he's a neighbor. He's your neighbor. You'll probably see him again. You know,
Yeah, maybe, yeah, because he's just
direct feedback on
blocks
your
away,
pedal.
right? But anyway, yeah. So that was kind of the ideas there. I really think people should do it that way, right? I'm doing all my boxes like that, you know, from
Mhm.
now on. Like every time I make a circuit board, it's always the same arrangement.
Yeah. I mean, um, I think most people would probably agree, um, but I think that there are some people who just like, as long as it works, I don't care like how what route the wire takes to get there.
Yeah, good point. But the thing is, like when you have to assemble it, like you're like, I don't care. I just want the circuit that sounds a certain way. You can do that. But then when you're doing the assembly and you're like, hey, this is frustrating to put together, or I'm making a mistake because it's hard to know what's going on, right? If you have if it was standard, you'd build the first one and then the second one would be easier because it was just like the first one.
I agree. I totally agree. I mean, with my limited pedal building experience or any kind of electronics building experience, when you are trying to look at a schematic and then you're looking at the actual object, it's like, if I'm looking at this, but then I have a schematic, or this is the control plate for my bass.
Oh,
But
nice.
if I'm looking at the schematic, it might be upside down or like turned over, and you have to like kind of keep on, you have to keep checking yourself to make sure that you've got, uh, the right. Well, this one also has two levels of conduct because these are stacked pots.
Hey,
So
that's super cool. Let me ask you, where did you get those pots and the knobs?
I think I got all of it on eBay. I don't remember who the seller was, but yeah,
Mhm.
I think I just ordered these things from eBay. Yeah.
Cool. I have been wanting to get some of those stacked pots, and then it's hard to find them. And then when you do, it's hard to find knobs that fit them. Did you get the knobs and the pots together?
No, um they might have been the same seller, but they were definitely not a set.
Oh, okay. But if you got them from the same place, they were gonna guarantee to fit.
Yeah, I didn't have to worry about the like these knobs are a perfect fit for the shafts on these pots.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm gonna send me a link to those because I'm kind of curious.
Okay,
I like those, and I was like, oh, I could see a use for them for something, right?
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
I have one base that has stacked pots, and I don't really like I don't really like them. But on this one, I think it's a different interface. I think what we're doing is volume, volume, tone, tone, two pickups. The
nice.
other one, I think it's like it's like a blend, and somewhere in the middle, it's like, you know, split evenly between the two, and then the bottom one is something like tone reach. I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of annoying. And I also think it has crappy knobs. But I didn't do it. I didn't build it. So this will be different.
Yeah. Hey, you know, you're reminding me, you know what else I did this week? I did this during the week. So I've been on this thing where I get up in the morning, it's like 7 a.m. And then I do a little work on something that's not work. Like not, you know, I just do a little work on my thing. So I've been trying to learn to use this PC board like creation software. It's called KiCad, KiCad. And so I spend like an hour in the morning just learning KiCad, and I'm making progress, right? You know, I usually use Eagle, right? So I do all the boards with Eagle, but I want to learn KiCad because it has some other options, right? So I've been doing that. And along the way, what I did is I made a circuit board for the Big Muff, right? So I was like, I'm going to make a circuit board that might be useful for people, right? Like people would want to build it, and everybody builds the Big Muff. It's like a classic one, and there's all these different versions. So what I did was I set my circuit board up just like what we talked about here. So it's got the same wiring options, so you can just drop it in, right? The pots mount to the board. And I used these, I used some pots that look like this. They're these little 9mm ones, right? And so they mount to the board. So this will make kind of a nice clean build. They just mount to the board. The board will solder onto the back of the pot right here on the legs, and these two little, you know, I don't know, these are kind of like supports, or I don't know, right? So anyway, so I got some of these on there. That's what it's going to use those. And then what I did was I numbered all the parts on the circuit board. So, you know, it's always like R1, R2, R3, right? But what I did was I numbered it by the numbering scheme that's on the Big Muff page. So there's a website called the Big Muff page. It's like this guy, I don't know who it is. He's got a Big Muff fixation, and he's documented every version of the Big Muff. And there's a schematic for each version of the Big Muff, like from the first one through all the, you know, newer versions, later versions, the, you know, a bunch of different clones and variations sold by different companies, right? And what he did was all the schematics number the parts in the same way, right? So R1 is always the same resistor, right? Some of the ones you have different parts on those, and those parts are like added on, but the general Big Muff scheme, like the, you know, all the common parts are all numbered the same. So what I did is I numbered my circuit board with the same numbers. So that means like anybody that had one of these circuit boards, they could build a Big Muff. They could look up the version of the Big Muff on the site that they wanted to build, and then they could just put the parts in it and follow that schematic for the parts, you know?
That's cool.
Yeah, I thought it'd be a good idea. So, you know, if you want to build a Big Muff, you can get one of my boards. You can say like, I want to build the, you know, Ram's Head, or I want to build the Green Russian, or I want to build the Civil War. I want to build the triangle. You know, you can pick any one of those versions, just look up the parts and just match them to the circuit board.
Very cool. Oh, nice work. You know what I thought you were going to say was that that this program was going to allow you to build circuit boards that you could use in PCB way and have those.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
you can just send anything over there. I think all the software, like you can just export it and then send it over there. So I'm having them do some boards. The bummer is the shipping is so slow. So I actually ordered the boards. They're sending them to me. I got 10 in the mail. So I'm going to build a couple just to test them, you know, first to make sure that I did it right. Because every once, you know, you make mistakes sometimes, right? It's been known to happen, right? So I'm going to build them and test them. But the LED, the pots, yeah, and what's nice too is the LED mounts to the board too. Like I forgot to mention that, right? So like on this one, like the LED is right here, so, and the pots are right here. So essentially like this, it's just like one unit. You just plug it into the box, and then the LED and all the pots are mounted, and then you just run the wires, to the input and output jack and the power, and you're done.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's like on this one, I gotta have like, it just has, power, ground, input, and output. So then I have to put the LED in there, and then the LED has to wire to the switch, and then one end of the LED has to go to the battery. So I have to connect it somehow to the power jack, and the power jack also has to go to the circuit board. It's not hard, but it's like, it's more effort. And then you have to think about how it wires, like you have to think of where the wires go and how you're going to connect them.
Mm-hmm.
Then you gotta have like 2 power wires going to the jack, because one of them has to power the LED, and then you have to have a resistor in between the LED and the power supply, and that doesn't have a place to go. Here, the resistor for the LED is on the board, so you just plug it in and it's done, and then you plug the LED on the board, and then you have a place to hold it, right?
Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I mean, I always end up taking everything out of the box, checking things.
Yeah, actually, these are kind of cool. When you do it this way, you can just pull the whole thing out of the box and plug it back in again. Like because all the parts come with it. You don't have to like pry it loose or like unsolder it to get it out of the box. You have to take all the nuts off though.
Yeah, it's like,
yeah,
all the nuts off. Cool. Yeah,
taking nuts off in life. Yeah. So let's see, what else are we working on here?
Well, I still have on my list that I want to electrify my acoustic guitar. I don't know. I think the priority is I've got all the parts that I need for my bass, so I'm going to finish that up tomorrow. I have to find a schematic for the wiring, just so it works the first time I plug it in.
Cool. Yeah, nice. I like that it's on that the Fender did it right. Like I like that little panel, because you just take that off and all the wiring goes on there and you can just drop that in,
Right.
If you give yourself a little extra wire too, you'll have enough room to pull it out of the thing and look at it and then put it back in,
Yeah, I'm definitely going to make it easy to work on, because there's always the possibility that I'll mod it later. Like the Precision came out. I mean, that is the Precision design, but like the split coil Precision came out a few years later, and it has that plastic pick guard. I kind of think they went backwards.
Yeah, maybe.
I guess the jazz bass, that was a further evolution down the line, and then they put the jack on the actual control plate. And that was, I think, a step backwards. Like the first Precision actually had a Telecaster jack plate, and both your volume control and separate plate.
Yeah, actually, I like that electro socket.
Yeah, I know.
I think those are cool.
Yeah, I was thinking about getting one of those, but for one, I don't want to order it. But the other thing is, I don't think it would fit in the hole that's been drilled for the jack. So I'm just going to use like a football jack plate.
Yeah. The thing I like about the electro socket is that the jack threads into the electro socket.
Yeah.
And so if you have a nut on the back side, you can screw the jack in and then tighten the nut against the electro socket, and it's a lot more solid than just tightening the nut around one of those metal plates.
Yeah, I agree.
It feels more solid, anyway, right?
Yeah, I have one on my Chester guitar, and I really like it. But I think I'd have to drill out the hole for the jack on this bottom.
Yeah, if it already has a hole too, it'd be really hard to drill that out. You know what I mean? Because like the drill would want to like skate around a lot, just, you know what I mean? Like if you had one of those like, you know, like a Forstner bit, right? Because it just has this kind of square edge to it when these two big wings, and they would just want to grab the wood, you know.
I tried that once. It's terrible.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
a
don't do that.
disaster.
Don't do that. We do see at Make Guitar, we do these kind of disasters for you, so you don't have to do them on your own.
That was a really impressive sound effect that you did.
Oh, sorry, I whacked the laptop with my hand by accident.
Oh, it sounded like your desk just like.
Oh.
Yeah, I've made plenty of mistakes, and you know, maybe we should document more of those. You know, show our mistakes. So you know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing that I've really enjoyed about the Crimson Guitars channel. You get to benefit from like how does Ben Crow recover from the disastrous mistake.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So I guess, yeah, what am I going to work on this week? So, you know, I found a page with a bunch of mods for the DS1.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So I thought now that I got my DS1 working, my stock DS1 that's in a in a different box, I'm gonna maybe do some DS1 mods. So I might do a couple here. There's a few, and this box has like a lot of room. You know, actually, you know, the funny thing, notice where I put the input and output jack. Like, you see how it's really up high on the side. I thought about putting them on the ends. Really, people like to do these, but this wouldn't really allow for it the way that the circuit board is in here with these pots. I might have been able to do it, but I don't think I have enough room. So what I did is I put them here, and this is exactly where they'd be on the Boss DS1. Notice how it's up high?
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. I put them in exactly the same location. And the funny thing is this is actually kind of a good idea, because as you tighten the nut on here, the jack is so close to the top edge that the case prevents the jack from spinning on the inside.
Ah, okay.
Right. So that actually kind of worked out well, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I might modify this. This might be a project for this week, and then I think I'm going to finish up this DRV.
That's cool. If I could just say something about the Boss input output jack placement. I was talking to somebody recently about that whole idea about like the height of your input output jacks, and they're like, oh yeah, if you have all Boss pedals, you can just use those, you know, those male to male plugs, so your pedals can all just be butted up against each other. And you know, it's like I bought some of those things, those just straight jacks, but I don't have enough Boss pedals where I could just have them all lined up. You know the ones I'm talking about? It's just like male, just like a little, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, those are great. The thing about the Boss pedals too is, like, it's hard to maybe tell here, but the sides are parallel and they're perpendicular to the ground. So they're like square. So you can, you know, put a jack in here and it can go straight across to the next Boss pedal. The problem with these and all the like boxes that the DIYers buy is the sides are canted, like they're a little bit sloped. So if you put the jack in here, it'll be pointing like kind of at a slight angle up. So if you had another pedal, you know, you'd be either bending the jack or the two pedals would be like kind of angled like this. Right. So that's kind of the bummer. Those connectors are kind of nice, but then it doesn't really work for these kind of boxes, you know?
Right. Yeah, I know. Yeah, the Boss guys they just had it right from the beginning.
They did pretty good. Their product is solid, you know? Yeah. And then they have great colors.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you were able to reproduce that color.
Yeah, it's close. This is actually really close. It's a little more yellow.
Yeah.
The Boss one's like a little more red, just a touch, you know, but they're pretty close. So anyway, so that was kind of fun. That was the project for this week, you know. But yeah, so I'm gonna try and mod that maybe. Maybe I'm gonna play and maybe do a demo of the Quadratron, because it sounded pretty good. And I'm going to continue building this drum machine. I'd really like to get that out of the way. And then I have 2 more Quadratrons to build. So I might, if I build those other 2, maybe I'll try and put 1 or 2 of them up for sale on Reverb to see if I can hawk them and pay for my habit, you know?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Right. And what else here? I have another one of those parentheses fuzzes right here too that I have to finish up, you know? So yeah, this one needed, it's like, I think I couldn't find the germanium diode, so I didn't finish this one. But then luckily I dug a bunch of parts out of my old project bin. I had just a bunch of old circuit boards. So I pulled a bunch of parts and I found a couple of germanium diodes in there. So I'll use those, you know. You know, and then I have this other thing. I'm trying to do this like, so this is an Arduino. So it's like a microcontroller, you can program it. And then here's a bunch of knobs. And I found this, I want to learn how to do this. So I breadboarded this thing. It's not quite done. I got to put a couple more wires in there and finish this up, but, and then program it. And I found this guy had a project. He's got a site, or like he's got a GitHub account called Spherical Sound. And I think I get the impression they're from Spain. And he has a couple projects on there. And one of them is this thing called Glitch Storm. And it basically, it takes this thing, it's a concept called byte beats. And byte beats are little, like, it's like, you know, a programming expression, like a software program that generates like numbers that kind of repeat and change and evolve over time. They're not just all random, you know? So you kind of hear, like, if you play the byte beat, it kind of sounds like, kind of like 8-bit, almost like music, you know, because you hear patterns in it, you know. But anyway, so I want to build this thing because it generates byte beats with the Arduino, you know. So that's kind of another project, you know, and it has a couple different algorithms in it that generate the byte beats. So
would you use that with your Euro rack?
okay, so that's like, if I can get it working, I think what I'm going to do next is I'm going to try and design a circuit board for it for the Euro rack, right? So it'll fit the panel size, the 3U panel for standard Euro rack modules, right? So that's the goal. Like if I can get it working on the breadboard, I'll try and make a circuit board for it and then make a front panel, and then it can be a Euro rack module.
Super cool.
Yeah, there's a couple other problems to solve, like the Arduino runs on 5 volts, but the Euro rack runs plus 12 minus 12. So it's like 24 volts. So you could probably fry your Arduino with your Euro rack system. So I need to figure out how to power the Arduino from the Euro rack. So there's probably like, I probably just got to get a voltage regulator, you know, like a 5-volt regulator or whatever, you know. But then also like the output from the Arduino will be in the range of 5 volts, right? But maybe I want to boost that up if it's going to be audio on the Euro rack. So maybe I got to add an op amp and boost the voltage to like 12 volts or plus 5, minus 5, or 10-volt range, or whatever it is. I got to look into that and figure out what it is, you know.
Cool. Yeah, that's an interesting problem. But I guess that's down the road once you get the first thing working.
Yeah, that's the thing. You just got to get it working, right?
Yeah.
It's not quite working yet. I gotta plug some more wires in and double check my work, and then see if I can program it. You know, because then I'll have to run. You have to program the Arduino, so you got to connect it to the computer and get the program to download onto it to run.
I mean, it sounds like it's a labor of love. It's definitely like a hobbyist thing.
Yeah, it's fun.
I just saw there's a update for the Micro Freak, another firmware update that adds another oscillator.
Oh, cool.
Or a new like wavetable synthesis or something like that. So all I have to do is like plug the Euro rack in, or the Micro Freak into my computer and update the firmware, and I've got a new toy. I feel like I've chosen, you know, something that's more appropriate to my level.
Yeah, I think the Micro Freak is cool. I think it's cool. I've read a lot about it, and I saw some demos on the internet, you know, on YouTube, and It looks super cool. Plus, like you said it, like the oscillator that it has is based on Platts,
Mhm.
right? And
Right.
Platts is great. Like I was using Platts. I got Platts going right now. That's Platts, right?
Mhm. That's great. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I know how to use this thing already. I don't, if you get another Eurorack module, you have to figure out how to use that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, just focus on one and be the master of that, right? That's good,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, Platts is great. So like, I mean, you're actually so the Micro Freak is kind of inspiring me. I'm like, maybe I should get one, because it's kind of cool, because it kind of does a lot,
Yeah.
like you get a lot for what you paid, right? What you pay for, it's kind of good value.
Yeah. Yeah. For those who don't know, the Micro Freak is about 300 or 350 or something like that. Very affordable for what it does.
Oh yeah.
And it's got it has a controller interface on it. It has keys. They don't press down. They're capacitive. Uh, so they have their own kind of expression on them. Like the harder you press, the more your finger, the skin spreads out, and so you get that expression from it. It has like a chaos pad kind of thing, so and all that really powerful.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah,
I feel like you get a lot for what you pay for because it's kind of like you're getting like 3 or 4 or more modules in one, where like if you you could get everything you have in the Micro Freak like in Eurorack in separate modules, but you'd pay like $200 to $400 or more maybe for each of those modules.
right.
Right? So like you could pay like 120, 150, 180 bucks for Platts and just have the oscillator, and then you'd have to buy the keyboard. And there's a
Right.
couple keyboards, but usually those are bigger modules. They're going to be more expensive, just they're larger,
Mhm.
right? You could probably get like something similar to the keyboard for a couple $100, and then like for the LFOs and like the other features, like you'd have to buy something for that.
And it has a built-in vocoder.
Oh yeah, yeah, and the vocoder, that's actually like a module that there isn't like a lot there aren't a lot of choices for that.
But yeah, special microphone. Before this accessory came out, nobody knew that it had a vocoder built into it, even though that jack still existed, but it's a dual purpose jack. So um,
Super cool. I think it's super cool, right? Actually, what's cool about it too is you could just perform just with the Micro Freak, right? You
totally,
don't need
yeah,
other stuff.
yeah. Or you could have two right next to each other and just have them set to different octaves, and it would just be this continuous thing.
Nice. Hey, does it have a sequencer?
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
awesome.
It has a step sequencer, and we've got an arpeggiator that has different arpeggiation modes.
Does the sequencer, does it use the little screen so you kind of program it like steps on the screen somehow?
Um, no, you use the keys.
Oh, okay. So you kind of plug in the keys and then it kind of remembers every time you hit a note or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I think that actually, I think on the screen it does show you like what number of the step that you're at.
okay. Yeah, cool. Yeah, super cool. Like maybe there's a Micro Freak in my future. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you would enjoy it.
Yeah.
Every time you go.
Yeah, cool. Well, should we wrap it up?
Well, I just don't want to leave without giving a plug for this awesome Swedish band that that our friend Arturo introduced me to just the other day, uh, called. I don't have it up on my screen. I'll just look behind me here.
Serena
Serena
Manish.
Manish. Serena Manish.
Nice.
And that was the album SM backwards. S and M backwards. Um, So yeah, that's all I got for Bandcamp this week. You have anything on Bandcamp?
No, just listening to Claudio Simonetti was my thing this week.
Well, that's cool. I have to dive into that.
We should do another movie. We should do a movie with where he did the soundtrack. I think we should do that, or like a Tangerine Dream soundtrack. Like
That
like
would be cool.
Or like one of the horror movies by that Goblin did the soundtrack for, like Suspiria or something.
Yeah, well, I definitely would like to talk about Suspiria. I haven't seen the new one, but I'm curious about it, and also I think it'd be kind of interesting to talk about like the Tom York Suspiria soundtrack, because he did the sequel. I mean the remake soundtrack.
Oh, huh. I haven't seen that. I don't know that one. Huh.
Yeah, I don't either, but it would be it'd be fun to talk about that. So
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
we'll put it
who's
on our list.
Tom York? What was he's in, like Radiohead or something, or
That's
what?
right.
Yeah. Oh, so I bet he probably, I don't know, but I'm gonna guess like he probably keeps it like, he gives a nod, or like kind of keeps it in line with what the original was, but his own spin. I bet he doesn't do everything totally original.
Right. I believe that. Yeah. I listened to a interview talking about that.
Yeah, that could be cool. I'm kind of sad we didn't do it for today, because I just realized like that horror, like reviewing a good horror movie for Halloween would have been perfect. Right?
Yeah.
We'll do a good horror movie for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, the most horrifying
Right.
holiday. Besides Valentine's Day, that's probably.
Yeah, right. Okay, cool. Should we wrap it up?
Yeah. And if you are watching this and you have any thoughts for us on future episodes, or you would like to submit any of your doom metal
Covers.
of 10cc or Player, link those in the comments.
Banatar.
Pat Benatar.
Actually, you know what I'm going to throw out there too is like go look up Simon or Claudio Simonetti.
I'll put a link to it in the description.
Well, just look him up really quick on Wikipedia, because I'm going to say the first picture that shows up, he looks a little Pat Benatar.
Okay.
I don't know why, but for some reason I saw his picture and I was like, hey, you're looking like Pat Benatar, Anyway, we'll wrap it up. Okay.
All right. Well, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
Okay, yeah, see you later.